Welcome to a Candlelittales post chat live stream on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, go on and hit subscribe. How are you getting on? Mel is with us today, and I think Mel Lynch from Her Story. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on with us, Mel, because I'm a massive fan of you as just a human being and everything you do. You fucking legend, you. So it's great to have you on. And as always, I'm Aron Hegarty, and I'm joined with my sister Sorika, and we're going to be chatting about a story, our last episode. But first and foremost, Mel, let's hear about you and what the hell Her Story is for those who don't know.
What the hell is Her Story? Yeah, God. Mischief started 5 years ago, constellating in the ether with Waking the Feminists and, all the feminist, I suppose, rising of women in Ireland and around the world. And I suppose it's a project of its time. I just wanted to tell the story of 75 women to start, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing from there. And I suppose in the last 5 years, we've made a women's exhibition that is currently touring the Irish Embassy Network worldwide. It's the first women's exhibition to do so. And last year we did a huge production with RTE. We made a major documentary TV series. We did an animation series for kids, and there was a 18-part podcast series and school workshops, and it's a microsite that's permanently on RTE Culture as a teaching resource. So we're now officially part of the school curriculum as a teaching resource, which is super duper. And then I suppose this year we've done some really powerful light shows. Nullag na Man Women's Little Christmas, we partnered with Safe Ireland, the domestic violence charity, to spotlight domestic violence, of course, which is a huge issue in the pandemic. And then on Bridget's Day, we created a pilgrimage of light all across Ireland in honour of the survivors of the mother and baby homes, which was hugely cathartic and healing and heartbreaking as well. So that's a little bit of what we do. I suppose it's a storytelling movement. Official Ireland call it a movement now. So we've got the stamp of approval, and it just does its thing. It kind of bolts on me every now and again. I'm like, get back in your box, and it flies. It has that Bridget energy about it. You don't put Bridget in the box, you know yourself.
No, never.
Amazing. I mean, like, it really is fucking amazing. I guess, like, Mel, I heard about you as the crazy Her Story lady for about 2 years before I met you. And I kind of need to go backtrack. And Sorika, we've been working with Her Story since you met Mel. So why don't you tell that initiation story?
Because we were actually comparing notes on this, because I thought I'd met Mel first at the Bard Summer School on Clare Island, which is the mythology summer school. But actually Mel had come to a show of ours and seen us, and then I'd done a show for Her Story in Smock Alley.
Back in 2017.
Back in 2017, it was me and Trassa.
It was indeed. I get flashbacks now,
Yeah, who does the Ishnook walking tours. And I'm blanking on her surname now terribly, but we'll put it in the show notes. And Oisín and Rue were playing the music for that. And we did a telling in Smock Alley Boys School. And then the following year, it does make sense that Aron didn't meet you for 2 years, because he was away both of those winters. So these were Aron skiting away for the winter periods of time when he would just like fuck off for like, I'm going for a month. And then like 3 months later would turn up again with sunburn and a new tattoo. He's like, I only did that one time. But the second year, then we did a show on the Smock Alley main stage, and that was me and Rue and Oisín and Aoife, who did some of the mythology again. And we've been kind of plugging in with Her Story from the start. And then last year, I think Aron and Oisín, you guys went and did a storytelling at the GPO for the lighting up the GPO, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing, like these light shows that you guys do where you project artwork of goddesses onto public buildings in Ireland. And like, it's just stunning and such a wonderful way of making, because I think feminism can get such a rap of being like this sort of dour, like, you know, angry thing that is, you know, if you're not into it, you don't want to engage with it. And it's just really, you know, illuminating things and making it light and making it beautiful and making it inclusive. And then, of course, our last show, our big show that we did this time last year. In fact, I think it was this day last year, because it was the end of February.
Yeah.
1 year ago
quite,
in the Sugar Club.
It was the start of February. It was a month ago. So
Bridget's Day, yeah.
Oh, you're right. It was the start.
Yeah, we had to go up to Belfast. We were lighting up Belfast City Hall that night with the Peace Herons of Northern Ireland on the weekend of Brexit. It lined up with Bridget's Day. That was very healing and powerful as well. But I missed you guys, and I'd heard Tara Flynn said to me the show was absolutely phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to watching back. And you've made the video, haven't you?
It's on YouTube now.
Indeed, we have.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about earlier a Brené Brown podcast about knowing about invisible friends and having faith that you're all kind of knitting together some form of sweater for wetter weather. You're preparing yourselves in your own different corners, and there are people doing great movements, and all of a sudden you get to do a bit of a storytelling night in cohesion, or see someone who's painted something that you can project onto it, and it's just beautiful
that was that link up, and that's where those images, like for those of you who've seen the videos of the her story, obviously it's in the title of the video as well, but that's where they came from. It was the same reel of images that was projected onto the GPO that year, was what was playing behind us on the stage, and they were gorgeous, and it was so lovely.
We'll actually chance to see some of these images, which I'm really looking forward to. Mel, you're going to bring us through some of the slideshows that you've done. But not just yet. Yeah, not just yet. You have to look forward to that. We're keeping it all very well streamlined here now. In CTHQ. So first of all, we have to do kind of what this podcast sets out to do, is talk about the story that we told about last week. Now, we've been doing a whole series of goddess stories because of the month that's in it, because of Imbolc, because of Bridget and the Divine Feminine, and the goddesses that have not got their chance to have their stories told as much, and that's kind of part of Candlelittales. I know it's hugely part of her story. That's why we synchronize in that same little thing, which is lovely. And now I guess we're talking about the goddess Anya, and she happens to be one of the goddesses that you first projected in your first year. Is that right?
Indeed, yeah. Jim Fitzpatrick's bare-breasted Anya. We lit her up in Dublin. I thought, because I lived and worked in Paris. I thought, God, I'm really ruffling feathers doing this in Dublin now. What are they going to think of me? Lock me up. No, we got away with it somehow. Maybe that's why we didn't get much funding for the first year. I wonder. She is like the bare-breasted goddess up in landmarks in Dublin. But we had a breastfeeding Madonna this year. We've gone to a whole new level, and we didn't get into any trouble at all. Actually, it's the headline story on RT Culture. So Ireland is moving with the times. Yeah.
Nice.
You can see that progression. Which is great. And like I'm very excited to see the images at the end and talk about what you're doing again. In terms of Anya, I mean, the goddess of light, the goddess of sun, the goddess of the moon. She's kind of a fertility goddess. She's a love and kindness goddess. She has this retribution thing. I know you listened to the story because we were chatting to you on Friday. And Soraka and Anya, Mel, I kind of want to ask: is the theme of this story essentially resilience? Am I missing the point here, or is that kind of, if you had to summarize the theme, or what is the theme that you found it to be?
God, that's a good question. Resilience. I didn't take resilience from it. I'd say for me, it's the indomitable spirit of the feminine and the ability to heal and transcend through any trauma. And I really believe that we have that innate ability, and the issue of rape needs to be discussed in a lot more depth and detail too, publicly within culture too. But that for me would be just indestructible. There's no stopping us.
Yeah, no, I think there was something more than resilience, because to me resilience means like enduring something, but there's something in Anya that wasn't touched by the violation. Do you know what I mean? There was something in her that transcended it. I think that's the word, really. I think it's more transcendence. And like, I thought it was a really it was an interesting one, like, because we talked about it a little bit, and about like it's a difficult subject matter and all that kind of stuff, and because even though it's not graphic, it's quite visceral. The way you told it, and I think you told it very, very like unflinchingly, especially in terms of like, you and I had discussed this, and in all the source texts, it says, oh, he was overcome by her beauty. And we both had this reaction to that, where it's like, that's not what fucking happens. That's not a thing. Like, no, we're not putting that in a story. That is not what rape is. It is about power and domination, and it is violence, and it's a choice. And like it is a convenient excuse that people are still using to say, oh, I couldn't control myself. And it is and ever has been complete fucking bullshit. And it like does not fly. And so I thought it was really, really, it was a very powerful telling of that, like not shrinking from that and not taking any excuses for him and saying like, this was the decision. Like he very clearly made a choice and it was a fucking brutal choice. But yeah, there's something in Anya that is stronger than his ability to hurt her. And I've always loved her revenge in that story. I always think her revenge on him it's so satisfying, but it's also like, it's so surgically precise.
Yeah.
Like she does the minimum physical harm to him that fucks him up top to bottom. His whole life is over. You know what I mean? She makes him not able to be a king anymore, ever. She takes his job, his livelihood, and his status with one bite.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking, and it's not splashy and it's not gory and it's not it's not like overkill. It's just like, that's, to me, it's just like, it's surgical. She's just like, all right, you hurt me, your life is over. And it's very
or worse than, in a way, you know,
worse than if she killed him. Like he's reduced to nothing in his society from being a king. And it's very, I don't know, I feel like that's a very kind of that's something that Bridget is the kind of thing that Bridget does as well when she loses her temper. Like it's lots and lots and lots of love and compassion, but once a certain line is crossed, it's like fucking annihilation.
Yeah.
Which is also kind of an interesting part of the goddess story and the Anya story in particular.
But you need that Kali energy as well, you know, like that you need to be able to be the Morrigan, I suppose, in this context. Like you need to release the rage. And I think female rage is something that is really dismissed and put down and kind of blamed for crazy and shunned, which is like, oh, really weird. Then you have this adaptive behavior where women don't show anger because it's ridiculed, and you have men hyper aware that they can only communicate in rage. And so you have this divide in kind of how ways of displaying authority and connection. And then you all of a sudden this is where that leads to, I guess, that imbalance. So I think transcendence is the way to go with that one. I think you're right. It is a step above. Mel, do you want to jump in?
Yeah. And I think anger is an emotion. It's something that is defining our times, but it's not very well understood because I think it's got huge energy and emotion behind it, you know, but it's cathartic and it's potentially alchemical and potentially highly constructive if you know how to wield it, but it can be highly unpredictable and destructive too. And I went through a big process with I suppose I call it a feminist awakening. When I started her story, I became an angry feminist overnight, and like my rose-tinted glasses, like they literally shattered, and I started to see the subtleties and the explicit like sexism everywhere. Because I would have grown up in a household where women were equal, and that's going back generations on my mother's line, that from Northern Ireland, and there's a real tradition of very strong women and then feminist men who would respect women. So for me, like it was like this, like, what am I gonna do with this rage? And I was like, oh, I'm an angry feminist. And it was like, oh, you know, burling and swirling inside me. And I had to catch myself, and I used like the mirrors technique. It's like Jungian psychology, you know, you're observing yourself through multiple lenses and mirrors. And I caught myself projecting this rage onto the men in my life. And like somebody like my younger brother, who's actually was a staunch feminist long before I ever was. And it's probably the most hardcore feminist in our family. Like he's the only boy of like four girls, and he's the middle child. And I'm so proud of him. Like when the Repeal the Eighth was going on, he was, you know, at a house party, spent the whole night convincing his friends to vote yes to Repeal the Eighth. Like he's such a hero. I love him to bits. And like I caught myself projecting, like my uncle, my dad, and like these like the men who were in parties. Like, what am I doing? Like, you know, so there's thousands of years of suppressed rage and anger. But I can't project it onto the men, and it's not fair to also project all that rage that's built up for eons onto contemporary men, because it's not their fault. It's a legacy of. So I decided to create what I call compassionate feminism. Now I'm not there all the time. And it's a dance. And sometimes I'm angry and I have to be angry. And sometimes I have to create from a space of anger. And that's important, to own that anger, to give permission for people to feel the anger too. But then more often than not, I'm going, okay, well, what's the leap here? What's the paradigm leap? How can we bring people on a healing journey? And ultimately, how can we shift the trajectory of humanity and Irish culture in a way that's inclusive and healing and transformative and empowering for everybody? So that's why we have as many male, I say call them godfathers, like men supporting her story as women. And, you know, I'm going to a meeting with RT and there's 19 people in the room. And the first thing I have to say is, this is a compassionate feminist project. We're not attacking the men sitting in the room. And you can actually feel a sigh of relief. These wonderful men, like Derek O'Connor, like the director, you know, he's the editor of Culture, and Owen, he's the head of digital. Like, they're really good guys. And I'm like, we're all in this together, and they genuinely want to support women. So it's a bit of a dance, like, you know, how you use anger and what you do with it. But I use it as a creative force. I think if you have an outlet, it helps.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think what you need there is like compassionate masculinity as well, like, because you know, this whole idea of the divine and divine masculine or feminine and the different roles that has, or holes in society. Like, you essentially just need everyone to kind of calm down, be grand about it. We're all in this together. And your article on Father's Day 2 years ago that you sent me recently was brilliant. And I read it today coming from the car, because it was like, fucking fantastic. This is the stuff that, like, my father's been saying, you know, the room for male hurt and the room for female hurt, they're in the same room. They're, you know, that's the fucking thing. And like, people who are in higher power will always abuse people who are in lower power. It happened to be more men in that situation than women in this society. In Japan, there's a fucking horrendous story of, you know, women beating up their kids because there's the hierarchy of their abuse from male, and then the female abuse on children because they're in lesser power.
It goes downhill. It's always that thing of like, the most vulnerable get hurt the worst in that kind of any kind of system of inflexible hierarchy. And like, it doesn't matter if the person at the top is at the top, you know, or it's easier for them to get to the top because of their gender or because of their race or because of whatever else. If you've got a system of inflexible hierarchy, the abuse goes downhill.
Yeah. And everybody loses in the long run, actually. The people who are even in power aren't really that's not true power, because domination fundamentally is it's a state of what's the word? It's you've got like expansion, and then it's like
contraction.
Like, you can never be in a state of love and in a state of domination. It's actually impossible. Love is always an expansive state. So if you want a loving, compassionate, caring, inclusive society, you have to shift out of domination. And that's why I prefer to use the word domination than patriarchy, because women, given the chance, can be actually the greatest patriarchs. I think it's gender neutral, just because historically men would have ruled. But I'm seeing it now. I've had more women trip up her story than men. And I have to name that. I won't name the women. I'm trying to move beyond the judgment of it. But to name it is important, and to also name toxic femininity, because I seem to be the only one using that term in Dublin when I speak at events. We all have shadow, and there's shadow across the whole spectrum, and we have to own our shadow and integrate it to move beyond it. But this idea that women are innocent, I ain't buying it.
It's do you know what? I really object to it, because it is actually a capitulation and an agreement with how women are oppressed by society, because part of the oppression of women is an infantilization of women. It's why you see women and children in the same fucking breath on the news. It's not because they're special, it's because they're like children. And like, this comes to bear in, like, you know, they're not fully grown-ups, they can't take care of themselves, they need a protector. And women, like, female innocence is part of that too. The myth of female innocence is part of that mythologization, the angel of the home, all of that bullshit that has been wrapped up over generations and put on women. And I also fully, I'm with you, Mel, I completely reject it, because like, if we are, you know, if there's any point to any of this stuff, it's to acknowledge that all of us are fully human. And if we are all fully human, then none of us are perfectly innocent and none of us are perfectly evil, because those things are not human parts of the human condition.
Yeah. Not to be afraid of shadow, I think, is really important too. There's a lot of conditioning around. I mean, that's I suppose the great gift of Bard mythologies is like when you're spending time with Jungian psychoanalysts and they're unpacking shadow and those destructive forces within our psyche and the subconscious and culture, and then you name them and you own them and you work through them and they're not so scary anymore. And it's like, fuck, but this is the world we're living in, and it's hugely empowering, you know.
It's so powerful. I had the best time at Bard Mythologies one time when I decided to inhabit the character of Midir from Midir and Etain, because I think he's such a I don't like I never liked him before, and I always thought he was such a prick, and he was such a like nasty little patriarch. He was like, I'm gonna swap out my like old woman for a new woman, and I still think he's an asshole, but I now know where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. God, my God, did I go into
we can all play the roles, like that's the whole point. We're so flexible in ourselves, we can actually adapt to all of these archetypes. You know, we have the full spectrum in ourselves, and that's why we identify with these roles that are played out so beautifully in these myths, because we can recognize and we can see them all. You know, we can see it going on. And look, we're getting a lot of comments on the group at the moment.
Exciting.
Very good. Yeah. Oisin just handed me a phone. Do I need to read anything?
There's a couple of...
Good. Sorry, you're better multitasking. I can't multitask and read. Sorry.
How do I find these?
Go on. No, but I want to bring it back to a topic that we were talking about, Mel, and we were looking at this Knock On You story, I guess. Last week in our podcast, we put out a call for people to get in touch if you thought the Sive story needed a trigger warning, because it dealt with coercion and abuse, and I guess the Knock On You story unfortunately deals with rape. So if we're going to put out a trigger warning, we're going to have to put out for definitely both. And we're going to talk about the trigger warning aspect and some of the deeper themes. I just really want to quickly read out this email that we got from Sive, who's a brilliant storyteller herself and a human being in general. I listened to your podcast, Sive's Story, and after the chats just today, it blew me away. The saddest thing, but so gorgeous, with all the well-thought detail, ... I can personally relate to, and therefore wanted to comment on your comments on it maybe being a trauma trigger for some, and should these come with a warning. Possibly all of these stories come with one general warning, not for the faint-hearted, which is fair. But more importantly, stories that have the power to heal, as Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, and that is invaluable. If it triggers some healing or questioning or discomfort, so be it. Fantastic. I just thought that was Salema wrote that.
Salema wrote that.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So I pop it over to you, Mel, and see, after listening to it and not being given an oral trigger warning. Yeah. Do you think it's something that this story should come with, or when you have images of a sexual nature that could be abusive, is a trigger warning very necessary all the time? Certainly in this case.
Oh God, it's a tricky one, because I suppose we're living in a hypersexualized world, hypersexualized culture, and rape and sexual abuse has become normalized in culture, to the extent where is it even a trigger? And I think it's a really good point that you're making, because it's something that is so extreme and yet it's so normalized. So for me, I think a trigger warning, given the times that we're living in, I think with people in a pandemic situation where everybody's spending a lot of time on their own and they're really processing through their stuff, that potentially a warning is a good idea in these circumstances. But I love that quote. That's the author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, one of the great classic texts on reclaiming the lost goddess cultures. And I think I'd love to name my own, to add to her story, my own personal experience of healing through sexual abuse as a young girl. I talked about it before at the Safe Ireland Global Summit, and I'm very processed. I've integrated through it, so I feel very comfortable. And I hope you don't feel uncomfortable me bringing it up, but I know we talked about it earlier. And for me, like, I wasn't raped, so I told myself I wasn't raped, therefore it wasn't a big deal. And I buried it in the back of my psyche, and I was only 14 years old at the time, and pushed in my subconscious. There was no question of feeling guilty or shameful about it, or this whole idea of, you asked for it. I definitely didn't. I was groomed by one of my coaches, and fascinating thing happened. So as far as I'm concerned, it never affected me. I've had like 4 brilliant relationships, long-term relationships, and I've always thoroughly enjoyed my sexuality. But in my 20s, my late 20s, I would get these flashbacks out of the blue. There's no trigger. It would just come back up into my conscious mind. And I would experience this exquisite wrath and anger. And I was like, God, this is really interesting. I thought I was supposed to feel shame and guilt. So I reached out to a mentor of mine, and I didn't know. Yeah, I know, really interesting, right? I didn't know. And I think this is where the healing is. That's why I'm sharing the story, just in case there is somebody here who's listening who hasn't had the opportunity yet to process through their own experience of sexual abuse. Because there's a spectrum, you know, it's like, you know, being molested in the club is one thing, you know, or, you know, on a nightclub, and then there's a whole spectrum, but they do affect us, and a lot of it's subconscious. So what happened, I reached out to a mentor of mine, and I didn't know this, but she was a therapist to a lot of victims of the King's Hospital coaching scandal. And she said to me, she said, oh, Melanie, she said, oh, no. That's cultural conditioning to feel shame and guilt. The primal reaction is rage, because it's fundamentally an attack on your sexuality, which is, in its true definition, your ability to give and receive love. It's primal. So you're actually, if we were allowed as women to feel the rage and the wrath, we could then transmute it and heal through it. So she gave me a meditation technique and some art therapy to work through it. And it was an explosive week, and I worked through it. It was amazing. And then I waited until the time that I felt ready to actually share, to report the incident to the guards. And the second time, actually, I had scheduled to meet the detectives. And would you believe, I left Dublin Castle. It was the Repeal the Eighth celebrations in Dublin Castle. Hopped on the bus. So imagine the fuel of that feminist fire. Hopped on the bus home to Mullingar and straight into the detectives.
Wow.
I was some goddess walking into the Garda station. I was on fire. And they were really incredible. I have to say, like, I never felt for a second that they didn't believe me. And they said to me, like, at the end of the process, they were like, there was no question about it. Like, you were brilliant through the whole process. But another thing that I want to share as well is a lot of people feel when they report something that they're not believed, or the interrogation process is very intense and it's questioning their authenticity and their truth. And I asked the guards about the psychology behind it, and they said that what they're actually doing is they're intentionally trying to trigger an emotional response in you that they can then use to get the perpetrator to confess.
Oh, wow.
They're looking for angles and triggers, and they explain that to me. And I thought, oh, that's why they do what they do. Jesus. But unfortunately, that's not well known. So a lot of women feel like they're being actually attacked by the guards and not believed, but actually they're on your side and they're trying to get the right triggers to get the conviction. So that's why I think it's so important to share. And
that's really important information for people to know, I think, because that stops a lot of people from coming forward. The idea of, and I mean, that still sounds like it would be tough to go through when you're in a vulnerable moment.
I think for me, like, it's weird because I'd already processed through the wrath, and there was no real shame or guilt there. So I walked out of the Garda station and I felt joy. It was free. I had no idea how I'd feel. And it lasted for a few days. It wasn't flippant or superficial. It was a really genuine joy and a lightness. And then, like, through the end of the process, then, like, my energy levels, like, increased. And I had no idea that this incident that happened when I was 14, like, one off, had such an effect on me at a subconscious level. So that was really a beautiful gift. And I feel like I got, like, some of my power back too. So I'd really recommend it to anybody listening, if they are if they're triggered by this story of Anya and they're building up the courage to speak their truth and to get justice, that it can be a hugely transformative and empowering process. Just make sure you get the right support in place and pick the right time as well, so you've got a bit of breathing space to process.
Yeah,
of course. And that's I guess why it feels like it's important, even in this conversation and in this podcast and in this post-show chat, to be able to talk about rape and the rape of Anya and look at it without the skipping over that the story does in a lot of the text, which is, and then he raped her and then blah blah blah, and you're like, what just happened? Without
oh wow,
it's just like, sorry, hang on. So I found that so jarring. And then to talk it out with Orica and hear that, I guess, go through that kind of constant thing that you hear an awful lot of guys being, you know, oh, it was her fault, she was wearing a miniskirt, I was overcome with loss, what else was I supposed to do, you know, blah blah blah, and that disassociation from someone's culpability, essentially. And to just show it a stimulus, show a trigger, which is just going to have a physical or an emotional reaction to, and you can kind of justify it however you want to. But essentially, we all have those fucking we see things, we have desires for the chocolate or whatever, and we're all capable to fucking either pick it up or not pick it up. And when it
You have a
comes
choice.
from attacking somebody, you still have way more of a choice, way more choices, so many choices. So I guess, yeah, and as a man, I find it difficult to bring it up as like, should we talk about rape? Because I've never gotten raped. I'm also not very afraid of getting raped, and I don't think I'll probably ever get raped. That would be great. I hope that doesn't.
I hope that for all of us,
You know, like,
listening and at home, that nobody ever has to go through that. Just as a general wish for everyone.
as a general, wait, what?
Not just the three of us, but like all the way out. Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing, but I also think it's a real, like, I think the worst part about rape is the mind control of it, because it becomes something that women are taught to guard against their whole lives. Like when I was in college, it was like watch your drink, because somebody might put a drug in it and then rape you. And like when I was kind of, like going home, like I always used to walk home from pubs and people would be like, oh my God, you might get raped. Everything, like the rape is the boogeyman that keeps women compliant in a lot of ways. And it's not that it doesn't happen, but there is a part of it where I think like a lot of women, even women who have not directly experienced a lot of sexual violence, this is a thing that is like put on us, that like you have to be careful about how you dress. You have to be careful about who you hang out with. You have to be careful not to get too drunk. You have to be careful about who you go home with, because you will get raped. It's like there is this cloud of rape out there, and if you don't take XYZ precautions, it will happen to you. And it completely removes the rapist from the equation. Yeah. There's no kind of like,
don't rape people, it's really bad to rape.
And I think part of the problem is this idea that we have around rape is that we've made it into such a monstrous thing. It's like only monsters rape people. And that is not true. Human beings rape people. But it's the kind of crime that, because it's made monstrous, you then get into this really weird paradox where nobody believes that their friend is a rapist. Nobody believes that their dad is a rapist. Nobody believes that their brother is a rapist, or their sister, or their mother, or their daughter, because it's so big and it's so kind of mythologized that like people reject the reality of it. And I think we have done a really weird thing and part of it is the unspeakability of rape. Part of it is like not talking about it, or not telling the stories of, a goddess who was raped and is then fine. You know what I mean? She's not unhurt, she's not undamaged, but she's fine. She's still Anya. She's still Anya of Knock Anya, and she's still there if you go to her at Knock Anya. We don't tell those stories often enough.
No.
A lot of the stories we tell about rape are stories where the woman is ruined.
Yeah.
And the woman is, goes and throws herself off a cliff. Like, those are the stories of rape that we tell in our culture. And we also tell the story of a rapist as a monster, not your friend, your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother. And so we dehumanize the rapists. We take them out of our community. We make them into boogeymen. We disown them. And then we don't deal with them, and we don't deal with it. And I think it's all like, it's all kind of a piece as to how we are failing to deal with it, with sexual violence as a thing. Because like it's not true that it is, it is impossible for a man to be the victim of sexual violence. Like I remember that was one of the really interesting stories that came out during Me Too was Terry Crews, the big, huge former footballer guy. He's been on a lot of different television shows. Massive dude, was sexually assaulted at a party, and he came forward about that, and he talked about it, and like it was giant 6 foot tall or 7 foot tall made of muscle Terry Crews. Somebody like groped him at a party and then smiled at him, because he knew that if he got decked, if Terry decked him, it would be black man assaults white man. and it would be a different thing. And so like it was the same shit. It was the same leveraging of power to put somebody down and to show your domination over somebody. And I think it just really kind of showed that like we tell women and girls that they are uniquely vulnerable to this. And that's not actually true. Men and boys are very vulnerable to this. And like, I remember reading a quote about, people working with sexual assault survivors in El Salvador. And one of the workers there said a thing that really stuck with me. She said, boys grow out of being victims and girls don't. Boys get old enough that predators lose interest in them, but girls don't. So that's the difference. It's not that male children are safer than female children. And that's a really scary thing. But it also like, it's also part of the reason that men are silent about this issue. I think there is a massive silence among women. There is a massive silence among women, and there is an even bigger one among men, because I think it's seen as a feminizing thing to be assaulted in that way. And that was a long rant, guys. Sorry.
No, I think it's very important to oftentimes sit back and fucking listen when you ask a question that you struggle to comprehend. So I think it's very important, this discussion, and like even just reading back some of the comments on the YouTube page at the moment. The first half was about being able to hear me. Apparently I was muted. Sorry about that. But a few people are saying, it's a very disturbing story to listen to. This is Mark, although very effective dramatically. I could almost see what happened, and yes, it was flinching. But Ria said, mind blown, trigger for information for the Cardi to use. Thanks for sharing, Melanie. And
it's good. I'm glad to hear it helped somebody.
A few more people just kind of commenting on how useful it is to hear this type of conversation, because I think it's weirdly enough, it's one of those things that I guess we're telling myths. We keep on going down these big archetypes. We keep on opening up, and we're looking at the whole spectrum of humanity in all of its terrible aspects and all of its beautiful aspects. And I, like you, Mel, I prefer to remove gender from the fucking equation, because I think it confines it, it limits it, it makes it, inconsequential actually. Who is the perpetrator, who is the victim in a lot of myths, and sometimes we get trapped in this genderized version because male pain exists alongside female pain, although
that's really important.
Although calling women and children in the news, 10 women and children were blown up in this bombing, it definitely does reduce women to being the fragile and being like the ones you should protect amongst the female and children.
And it's also incredibly dismissive of men.
Completely dismissive of men. And
I object to that phrasing on several fucking levels.
But again,
really,
it's so multifaceted.
Yeah.
It is. It's one of those fucking things that it's just no, but and that's why I'm so thoroughly. I have been looking forward to this chat, Mel, for so long, because I guess I got stuck, not gonna lie. The music of Knock On Ya was one of the most difficult things to do in this lockdown, because none of us are in the same fucking room. We text, that's up. I redid it. What, you read it? I've been doing the music for 2 days. So there was just a couple of complications with how we're doing the music in this one, and it ended up being, because I guess Rory O'Shea took the month of the podcast of her story, for the Goddesses series for Candlelittales, and you can really see something that he really paved together and beautifully orchestrated, a very harmonic and kind of piano related, very chimey, and he linked them so beautifully to be kind of thematically linked. And then the Knock On Ya one, it became actually a collaboration between, again, 4 lads on the sound. I was playing a bodhrán behind Roche doing the bass, and Oisín and Alan Holman playing guitar and riffing off it and working with it and talking about the theme and talking about the topics within it and how we relate to it as men, and putting music to it and putting the driving aspect to it and putting the clench and the softness and standing back and listening to that fucking story. I think, as a group of men without women in the room, and then to come back and talk to women in the room, I think it's a fucking beautiful thing. And I think it's very important that we continue to mix and, do our things in our own groups and come back together and mix, because that's how we learn and process, I guess.
Oh, completely. Like this is such an enlightened conversation. It's going in places where I never actually had imagined it would go. And it's lovely to hear your artistic process, you know, from a musician's perspective, how you do justice and to really bring out those emotions, but also to respect the narrative and just how dark it is. That's no easy task. So I hear you. Wonderful stuff. And I just want to also name you're talking about the men suffering too. There's an insight I'm going to share with you, because we're the flow of the conversation. I've got a number of obviously advisors behind the scenes of her story, and psychotherapists and psychologists and consultants and mystics and people who have to read their eye on the culture. They're just observing, tracking what's going on. And one woman gave me an off the record, she asked for client confidentiality, but she told me a huge insight. She said she's seeing a trend now with her clients who are male from the age of 20 up to 60 and beyond. They're all coming to her trying to process through their guilt and shame around porn addiction. And they're very aware that it's affecting their ability to connect with their partners, and it's affecting their mental health, but it's the guilt and the shame of it. And for me, that's a leap in the masculine trying to heal and return to authenticity and to the heart. Because when you watch porn, anytime I've seen it in the past, I end up giggling. Like, it's like plastic puppetry, like a lot of the bad stuff is anyway. There's no connection, there's no heart in it. And you know, we're seeing that effect that it's having on younger generations now. On average, young boys in Ireland watch hard porn by the age of 11, and yet the Catholic Church has full control of our sex ed still. So we've been running focus groups with students. Last year, myself and our educational psychologist, we have a long-term dream to start a new sex ed to empower girls and boys too, because there's a gap there.
There's so many gaps in sex education, and like there's so much that it doesn't address in terms of like, not even just like it's focused on fucking reproduction. There's nothing in there about queer sexualities. There's nothing in there about asexuality. There's nothing in there about like different kinds of relationships people have, like monogamy and non. There's so many bits of it and there's nothing in there about like coercive control and abusive relationships, and like signs to spot when you're still young enough to know the difference. You know what I mean? Or to get out quickly. It's massively deficient.
Yeah, and it was actually interesting. One of the students said to us, she hit the nail on the head. She said, you know, there wouldn't be so much teenage pregnancy today if it actually was taught properly. Because there's so much curiosity and lack of empowerment, really, for young girls. That's how these things happen. So that's a long-term project that we're definitely looking at developing behind the scenes. But I just thought that insight about how men are suffering and trying to process through their guilt and shame, and that's through all the generations there now. And that's a real trend with psychology. So I'm just trying to find the right media partner, you know, a national newspaper, or some men to come together and say, okay, we're going to bring this topic to the public. We're going to open this can of worms, and we're going to hold space and doing it in a real safe, contained way. Because if men are suffering to that extent and they're very aware that it's affecting their relationships, fair play to them for having the courage to face it and to process through it. But we need to create a national safe space for that bigger conversation.
Sure. And I think it's an amazing one to even just to touch on the pornography aspect of things, because like Rome McDermott does a lot of school talks, and she's a warrior woman and a goddess in her own right. And she gets fucking slammed by all these fucking dumbasses who type in and being fucking asshole. But anyway, she she puts up with a lot and yet keeps on plugging. And one of the things she talks about openly and freely is sexuality. And she'll just blazingly look into a guy's eyes and go, so what's your kink? What do you search? What's your Google? You know, like, you're like, and or whatever. But she demystifies and she takes away the fucking the nastiness and the hidden agenda. And I think that's kind of like, you got to be able to talk about pornography if you watch it, lads. Like, if you do, then don't fucking run away from it. If it's something that you do, then it should be probably something you're happy about. If it's in your life, then maybe find a way to kind of integrate. If you want to fucking go down that fucking kink. Like, if you don't, then like stop hiding in dark lit rooms
Yeah.
or running away. And that's the thing that I guess a lot of my friends have brought to me, you know, just going for walks, or like, geez man, I had to fucking give up watching porn because, like, you know, it was just really fucking awful. Like, it's actually so destructive. But sure, like, and guys have these conversations, and they're few and far between. And one of the reasons male suicide is so fucking high is because men don't have groups that they instantly text or communicate with when they're feeling low, because women are biologically trained to do that anyway. You go, I'm at that low point, I need my girls around me, and these are all girls who fucking feel it on a literally monthly basis. But guys don't have that kind of thing. You know, and it's very difficult for men to communicate and find a language for safe communication about emotions. And
well, again, it's a thing that is cast as being a feminine thing, and it makes a man less of a man to be like a girl, and therefore talking about your emotions is girly, and therefore it's shameful and bad, and it really fucking puts men, like, it's that quote from Bell Hooks: the first act of violence that the patriarchy, if I can use it, asks of men is against themselves, not against women. It first asks men to do violence to their own emotions and their own emotional selves. And I think it's absolutely fucking bang on. Like, that's what happens. Men have to emotionally stunt themselves in order to survive under a system that takes anything that is about, you know, connection and compassion and vulnerability, and says that's for girls, and girls are shit. Like, that's a consequence. That's one of the things. It's one of the consequences of it.
And I think it's really important, Mel, as well. I just want to comment on the fact that you're avoiding using the word patriarchy, because it's one of those words that's become, with toxic masculinity, the arsenal for fucking feeling shit about being a man, and it's anti-masculinity, and this thing of like, no, you can't be a big, strong, hard, fierce man, because that's endangering people. No, hang on, that can't be fucking right. Hang on,
that's not what any of that means.
No, and it's not. I'm not saying that that's what's said, but that's kind of ends up being the end result from this whole toxic masculinity. As soon as you hear patriarchy, you're like, as a man, I've gone through this, like, patriarchy, I guess it's all my fault. I shouldn't wank.
Well, it is a term. It is a term that triggers a lot of defensiveness.
Yeah.
And I think it's a term that triggers a lot of defensiveness, and then a lot of people, rather than engage with where is that defensiveness coming from and why am I feeling it, will then go, okay, I feel defensive about this, therefore I don't like it, therefore it's bad, therefore I'm not listening to you anymore. Which is kind of like, I get a little bit frustrated with that, because, like, this is a conversation that I've had with our dad a number of times, and also our brother a number of times, where they're like blaming me for stuff, and I'm like, you are having a defensive reaction that is yours to deal with and process yourself. And maybe if you would like to go away and do that, we can finish this conversation. But, like, we're just having the same fucking conversation about, like, well, I don't like that word. And I'm like, well, it describes I think, a useful thing. Here's what I think it describes. Yeah, that's fair enough, but I still don't like that word.
I can understand. Yeah, I'd love to be a fly in the wall, and you're.
Oh man, you know what? I've already decided.
Aron has been several times.
I've already lined it up. Like, fuck this, you know. I'm just gonna, like, have our next podcast post show next month just between me and my brother, and go, so guys, patriarchy.
Ooh, loaded.
Go.
Yeah, words, like, it's such a loaded word.
It's a loaded word.
In advertising, like in copywriting, like yourselves, Circa, your background working in advertising, and we'd learned about the power of words and how you can also disseminate them and reimagine them. That's why I call it compassionate feminism. And geez, when I dropped that article last year, I really thought, like, and friends warned me, they're like, the feminists, the hardcore, they're going to go after you. Not one single negative comment. Now, that was a year studying philosophy in Trinity, to be able to build an argument that you're respecting all perspectives and weaving them, and then trying to also portray what's the leap here. Yeah. But it is every perspective, you know, and I think really having to, like, we have to move beyond the anger. You can get so stuck spinning in the anger. And that's what, like, feminism historically has been, and it had to be, because we need to feel the rage to have the energy to move beyond it. But I really believe this third wave of feminism has to be compassionate, or else, sure, equality is fundamentally, it's a state of harmony, and anger is fundamentally divisive. So we have to alchemize this. But if you see it as, I think it's Eckhart Tolle, I'm trying to remember who the author is, who said that if you think of anger as a huge ball of emotion, put it in your hand, feel the anger, big ball of emotion. Now take the anger away, keep the energy, and have some fun. Play with it.
That's good.
Well, that's what I like about Callie. It's like fucking feel the rage, lads and lassies. Fucking go for it. Roar out loud and don't fucking tell me I'm not allowed to get angry because it's a fucking justifiable fucking reaction to some shit that's going on. Now, as long as I don't direct it at anyone, make any harm, let me just fucking blow a fuse for a second and don't get annoyed at me. No, I'll have a rational conversation with you. But I think you need to be let off to fucking have that release, like. I dislike when people go, oh, you got very angry, therefore I'm eradicating you from talking with you, or you can't handle your emotions.
Which is one of the things that you've experienced happening to you in your personal relationships, and is one of the things that happens to, the feminist movement in its entirety by some people who are like, well, you're too angry, therefore I don't want to talk to you. You're being irrational. And I'm not going to listen.
Crazy.
And
diva.
It's all of these ways of like, and I think, my attitude to it sometimes is, I think your attitude, Mel, of compassionate feminism is a wonderful one. I'm also not there all the time because I get
that's cool.
I get a little bit sick of that shit.
Completely, we're totally human. Like, it's a dance. Like it is.
It is.
But there's a lot to be said for. I suppose for me, I get to take that rage, and then it appears as beautiful light shows, and there's a feeling in that. So when I have a creative process, that it channels through the anger, and like. But I love the work of David Hawkins and his scale of emotions. When you map out the emotions on a logarithmic scale, and you see the interweaving and the interplay. I gave a talk about it before, and like anger is the tipping point emotion. It's like the last negative emotion. If you believe there's such things as negative emotion, I don't really, but it's the last negative emotion. And then you're up to like peace, love, joy. Oh, you're up having a great time. What's the lowest vibrational emotion on the scale? If you really want to disempower people. Shame. Boom. God, you're banging the button.
She's good. I tend to not answer these questions.
We were talking about shame before, and I was like, that's it. That'll fucking cut the legs out from under you. Shame.
Honest to God. And it's really sticky, and it gets in, it becomes like a full physical emotional experience, whereas guilt tends to be associated more with a specific event or something. But those two together, the rise to the bottom of the scale. So we're culturally conditioned to feel angry and then ashamed for feeling anger. So you go from the tipping point emotion, like an empowered state, to the ultimate disempowerment. But if you alchemize the rage, you're home and dry to love, joy, all these expansive states. So when I start playing with that scale, that's what really shifted my personal experience with anger. I became empowered by it, but I still get fucking angry. Like,
I think you're right. When when you were talking earlier about like how when you first start like noticing like sexism in the world or discrimination in the world, and you start feeling the rage, it's not your own rage that you're feeling. And like I would feel the same rage about certain things in Irish history that are related to kind of colonialism and the attempted ethnocide of Irish people. Like, I definitely get, and it feels very similar. Like that rage and that grief is like, is it not just mine? This is also something ancestral. This is also some sort of transgenerational stuff that is here.
Oh, it's huge. And like if you look, say, at the feminine, I think that's why the mother and baby home scandal seems to be the most difficult to process yet. Like I've talked to so many of my friends, and some are like, are in their 50s, 60s, and they've, they were involved in the peace process in Northern Ireland, and the consultants, they've been meditating for years, and they don't know what to do with this trauma, because it seems to be like it's a fundamental attack at the mother, the feminine, and we all come from the mother, and then innocent children. But the fact that the whole of Irish society was colluded in this process, and we were so suppressed after colonialism, it's this huge wound. And we went through this epic process trying to work through it and heal through it with the light show that we did. I underestimated just how deep we go and cathartic it would be, and then how do you bring that healing in, and what's the role of the arts and creativity, and the rage, and the rage that translated as huge support from the Irish people when the campaign to unseal the archive, like, it landed 200,000 signatories. It's the fastest growing petition in the history of the state. And that was explosive rage, but huge support for the survivors. And this outcry from the Irish people to say, we've got the courage to heal and face our past, and we're not going to lock it in a box anymore. We want to transcend it, because you can't lock trauma in a box. It's always there, whether it's in the subconscious or it's swept under the carpet. It doesn't go until it's been worked through. And I really do believe, I've seen it now, like there's some great examples. Safe Ireland, like I don't know how they do it. Like it's a domestic violence charity. It's really difficult work. And but they curated this global summit, and the first speakers were Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
And they were in their 80s, and they fully, they were genuinely in a state of joy most of the time in their lives. So they worked through, I mean, the depth of work that these women had been on their own soul journey, and then to experience what's possible, the potential to heal, and to start a conference from that perspective, and then to create a safe space to hold women and men who were still processing through their experience. And Nora Casey was in tears on stage, and my God, it was just explosive. But to remember that we can heal. And I think that's the gift of Anya, is that she did, like, she's still the goddess, and she still healed and overcame it. And I personally, that's been my experience. Now I've no trigger talking about my experience of sexual abuse. And I never thought that would come. So here's to the indomitable spirit that is humanity, especially in these triggering times. Like, we've got so much to heal and work through as a collective and individually, That's
beautiful. I mean, I think like that was my kind of like to close off question for the Anya story is like, what is it that she represents for us as a goddess? What is it that light means for humanity, and how does it kind of be kind of embodied? And I think, Mel, like, you embody that in the way you fucking shine light on stories that have been hidden away, and we want to keep on fucking shouting from the hills and fucking calling in the ancestral wisdom that's been there for a fucking long ass time, and that every now and again we forget for 100 years or so and fuck things up and have to remember it again. It's every now and again there's a state of amnesia goes on, and we gotta relearn the shit again. So any closing off, how would you summarize Anya, Sorika?
I think you did a lovely job on Anya. I loved her whole like introduction as this like, pansexual, like teaching everybody how to love, just going around riding the countryside, and then turning into a mare and running away and winking at you and going, "You can't catch me, baby." She's fucking great. Like, I think she's got such a, like, the mischief and the regality and the idea of those two things like existing in the same person, that she can be so mischievous and she can be this like trickster lover queen all at the same time. I thought it was lovely, and I think Anya is still there, and Canuck Anya is still there, and here's to turning up on Anya's hill some full moon night.
Well, like, I think it's a nice segue into the fact that you're continuing to shine the light of Anya and the other goddesses. We've brought a close to our goddess series. That doesn't mean we'll stop talking about goddesses anytime soon. And I guess you're still in the midst of literally going around and blasting her story across the airwaves into our faces, our mind palaces, our emotional bodies, our subcortexes and neocortexes, and we're going to fucking get it from every direction. So can you tell us, Mel, what is it that you're most excited about that you're working on with her story right now, or in the last while?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So the Mother and Baby Home light show was very special because we had set the intention to somehow, if possible, spark a healing process. And the feedback from the survivors is that it's done that some who couldn't cry before were able to cry, and that even some subconscious repressed guilt and shame from others who had managed to keep their children was processed through as well. And it's really helped people. So that was hugely humbling and heartwarming. And we're going to continue that journey. So we're going to bring that light show to Dublin as well at the right time. And I'd love to do it when the pandemic's lifted and we can invite all the survivors to come and see themselves lit up in the GPO and just make a big celebration of them, So that'd be fabulous. What else is in the pipeline? International Women's Day. Oh, well.
Just before, I think we should pass comment on the fact that Laura Murphy is an acquaintance of ours, and she's just been doing. I've just listened to her radio sections that probably everyone else knew about until I found out about a couple of weeks after. But she's been speaking brilliantly and beautifully about her open letters to the Taoiseach. We met her in the Salmon and Knowledge Festival.
She told me.
And so you know the story as well. She just said her iPod broke, and Oisín, we just finished telling a story about Fionn McCool and the great goddesses that had the river a Boyne, and like she got up on the stage then to tell her first ever performance, and she had no music. It was like, she didn't do it. No, she was like, okay. And so there was a great, and then as she told the story, and she beautiful flowing poetry about Anu and her triple aspect, kind of weaving of that poetry of the triple goddess. 3 light dancers came on and started spinning and doing hula and poi with fire, and it was just like one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. It was just fantastic. Yeah.
I remember meeting Laura, and she absolutely thought that you and Oisín were like sent by the two of Annan to rescue her when her iPod broke. Like she just, and then that these dancers like were summoned. It sounds like an absolutely magical moment.
That's Laura. Magic follows Laura. She's really special. So she's a very dear friend of mine, actually. Ever since Stand for Truth, really, she was writing haikus. I was drafted in to light up landmarks with the first whistleblowers against the Catholic Church. And Susan Quirk, another dear friend of ours, she led a very powerful meditation at the Magdalen Laundry. So we're 3 very close friends, and we were weaving together behind the scenes. And Laura messaged me and she said, "I'm supposed to have a weekend off, but by God, this letter is coming through me. It's coming through me." And you could feel the force in her voice. And I was like, God, I can't wait to read this letter. And the first version of it, like, it was a small thesis. I think it was like 5,000 words. And she went through like stunning historical research, and then the quality of her writing. Like Jim Fitzpatrick said, it's like on a party Heaney, some of those lines in there. If Heaney was alive today, he'd be docking his hat to her. So we're so proud of her. She's been on a big journey, really big journey, and really coming into her power through the process of writing that letter. And it was fascinating. We both stood up together with 2 other friends who would all be very much on a spiritual path, but very much in the mainstream real 3D world. And we all were covered in the national media on Bridget's Day, and none of us got any backlash for speaking our truth, which we find fascinating. Yeah. So in Laura's case, she's getting support from like ministers, Anglican ministers and theologians and academics, and the kind of people that you'd think would be picking a hole in it, and they're all so supportive. She hasn't had one negative comment at all, which is just shows you the power of speaking your truth in these times. And if you do it with the right intention, she'd a really pure intention behind it. I
thought like even just her bringing in her grandfather and his aspect of not wanting to do that thing that the church said to do, and telling his daughter, don't feel my guilt, and having a recognition of not villainizing one gender over another, as we talked about, is kind of so important, because fucking fathers lost daughters through this whole fucking thing as well.
That's really important.
Huge trauma for a culture, not just women. There was a lot of hurt on both sides, and when hurt happens to women, it also happens to their sons and their brothers and their,
no person is an island, and it is that thing of like, it all rolls downhill, and it hits everybody on the way down, like.
Completely, yeah. It's the mother, and how the mother has been just dictated and controlled, and that's why we had to commission a whole new photographic series to take back the mother archetype as the goddess that she was, and to reimagine her. And I really thought I was going to get a roasting for doing this, but not a single negative comment either. It's bizarre. I think to myself still, but the kind of work you get away with no problem in France, but in Ireland, wow, we're obviously on a leap. Something's going on in the ether, because people really are so much more open to progressive work. But
we're getting there.
Yeah, you have to do the right thing for the right reason. That's what my mum always says. And the intention was right, but Jesus, you always leave yourself open to it.
But I also, just because eventually you're going to get a comment, eventually you're probably going to get something, and like I also think it's very fucking important to say that doesn't fucking matter. There are fucking idiots everywhere, and it's not all. We're not all good, and we're not all bad. There are
no, I know.
Who you have to go, okay, your values I don't agree with, and I'm going to move past. And you've said something that is hurtful and insulting, and you're not coming into my kind of bubble of harmony here, and that's fine. I'm going to keep on doing and finding my teammates. And I think it's also fucking important to say.
Oh, listen, that's an important thing to be able to have. So you mentioned something before we came on, Mel, that you wanted to see our reactions to.
Yes, I've got a proposition for you, and it's
I'm
not live now, so you have to say yes. So
right.
It's called the Bridget Box, but you know how I feel about not putting Bridget in a box. Okay, so rewind back to 2015, and her story, I suppose, was sparked by Josephine Hart, this incredibly authentic woman from Mullingar. She was a poetry evangelist, best-selling author, and theatre director, all-around good person. Poetry saved her life. 3 of her siblings died before she was 18, tragic circumstances, and she turned to poetry, and she said it saved her life. That was her form of counselling herself through the whole process. So before she passed away, she created this really cool, the early days of the internet, this is going back before 2015, she had created this really simple, cool algorithm website thingamajiggy, where basically you put in your sin and it cures you with a poem.
Oh, wow.
The 7 deadly sins cured through poetry. And I thought, this is genius. So we were celebrating, honouring Josephine as part of the Heart of Ireland Festival. And I worked for Saatchi's, the famous advertising agency. And I reached out to Morris, who was married to Josephine. And I said, Morris, look, I'd love to honour Josephine. She's such a local heroine, and she hasn't been given the credit due. And we talked about lots of different ideas. And I said to him, that fantastic website where you turn a sin into a poem? Well, how about we actually make that a real physical experience, i.e., we get a confession box, we put wheels on it, we spray paint it, it tours around all the theatre arts festivals around Ireland, you pop inside and it feckin' cures you your sin with a poem. So Morris said to me, he said, love it, Mel. Now, he's one of the original madmen. He's like, he's royalty in the ad industry, but he's still a very respectable Jewish man. He's an older generation. He said to me, I'll fund that. We'll make that happen. But first you have to get the blessing from the local parish priest. Back in 2015 in Mullingar, this is before the marriage equality referendum, just a few months before it, off I go off marching down to meet the parish priest. And in fairness, in Mullingar, the priests are really sound. Like we were kind of known for having sound young progressive priests. And he giggled. He did a right giggle.
The cool priest with the guitar.
Seriously, honestly, you'd meet them out clubbing on a night out, and they're great crack, and they'd never hit on you or anything. They're really respectful, sound guys. And there's never been an instance of clerical sexual abuse ever reported. It's a really bit of an anomaly, actually. But anyway, he said to me, I love it, he really enjoyed the idea. He said, but I just think there's a few elderly parishioners now, they'd be a bit offended by it. The older generation, they would be, but it's a great idea. So that was the end of that. That got parked. Now, then, of course, I discovered that Bridget was a goddess, the goddess of poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, we could do it for Bridget. And it's called Bridget. The nickname is Bridget Box anyway. That's the shorthand for her anyway. But I'm adamant I'm going to make it happen. Now, there's no way Official Ireland's going to fund this. I probably have to fund it out of my own pocket. I've got the prop designer. He does a lot of work for the Abbey on board. I know who the graffiti artist is. Could it be a Candlelittales Her Story collaboration?
Oh.
Are you game?
Cure your sin with a story.
You've already basically,
Bridget style.
How I am, right? Basically, I love creativity. I love collaborating. I love when someone gives me an idea and asks me to collaborate. So, fuck yes is always my answer. Let's put us in a box and let's fucking it's a fucking brilliant idea. I love it.
It's a no-brainer, like.
That sounds great.
And in honor of Josephine, we'll have to give her due credit, and we might have to ask Tara Flynn as well to get on board, because I know Tara originally wrote Bridget Not Jones's diary for her story's launch back in 2016. And she performed. It's all about how Bridget wanted to be a goddess and not a saint. It's side-splittingly funny.
Didn't she perform?
Sure.
She did that at the Sugar Club.
She did indeed.
No, she performed a different piece for you.
She did. No, she did. Well, you Bridget in the Butter. She did the Bridget in the Butter, but she recently, I was going to say, I shared her Bridget letter, and I was having a bit. I have a total kind of amazing crush on Tara. You're so cool. You're deadly. Here, I shared your thing, Tara. You're class. And she's like, oh, class, thanks so much. And she's just the most polite, lovely human being. And then
no ego.
side-splittingly funny, and from Cork. So unreal.
That sounds class. I love the idea of Bridget's box.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely amazing.
There'll have to be a load of boxes. Get like old
Oh,
horse boxes.
hopefully.
Oh, listen.
Make them up, do them up, have them done, in and out, get a poem, bada bing, bada boom. What a way to fucking turn the...
It's going to happen. And if he's listening and you want to help crowdfund this, let's make it happen. Or I can pay for it out of my own pocket.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Can't see the art can't put money into it now, but we'll make it happen one way or the other. Yeah.
We have a Patreon support and we can try and figure out how to do it anyway.
Can figure some stuff out.
And you know what? I mean, like this whole thing is this is funded by like we're looking at this kind of from the ground up support, because my head goes through the wall whenever I look at an application, and beautiful little small group festival in a van approached us recently to do an arts application for a beautiful idea that we said, fuck yeah, here's litter, here's the thing and the thing. They put it in, and hey, look, you know, there's a gajillion things that go in there and it's hard to get, but they didn't get the funding. She was gobsmacked. It was like they're telling stories to primary schools about goddesses and the heroes of Cuchulainn and Fiona and Bridget and Anu, and as well as everything else. And unfortunately, it didn't get done. That doesn't mean we're going to stop fucking telling stories to everybody. So, of course, you know, sometimes you don't get the big funding. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you also create a network and a society and a group of people that you can collaborate with on an ongoing basis. And you know the invisible team members are out there to help you collaborate, to help support you, to when you need a paintbrush slapped on a thing, they'll do it. If it's $5 that comes next year to get that paintbrush, happy fucking days. It's about collaborating and communicating as much as we can and keeping up this form of cohesion that is currently really lacking in society, because it's really being fucking pulled at the hems, and we're struggling to knit it all back together. But I think we're doing it. I think we're trying to do it. I think the more we continue on the Her Story pathway and the Candlelit Tales way of working, we're figuring out how we find each other out in the world that we're living in.
Absolutely. Putting stuff out there and seeing who it attracts.
Before we run out of this theme, Bridget's Day is going to be a national holiday.
Gonna happen
next year, probably. Mel, tell us about how that's going to happen.
Yeah, so we've got a petition at the moment. Now, please sign it, because people keep sharing it. It's gone viral in the past, and yet people just share it and don't sign it. So do sign it. We're going to present it to Leo Varadkar. It's his department that calls the shots on national holidays. We're going to do that on the equinox, the day of equality for men and women, 20th of March. But we're going to give a good push on St. Patrick's Day. Might do some cheeky viral mischief. Might just take over Patrick's Day, seeing as he gets so much of the spotlight.
Don't forget Sheila's Day, which is the day after Patrick's Day, which is his wife's day.
A note on that, actually, I'll never forget it, the year that we did an event for St. Sheila's Day as part of Patrick's Day Festival, officially in the programme. And I had Tara Flynn perform her shame song on the altar. And Bridget Not Jones's diary from the pulpit. Yes.
Amazing.
It was epic. We telling all the stories of the women from all the different world religions. So she took on Catholicism.
Brilliant. And you know what? This kind of leads me on to probably what will have to be our closing piece. We'll all reflect on. But I think, you know, I've worked in theatre since my whole acting career to date, and I've found that Candle Tales started off as a live thing, and we've, since starting a podcast, have been listening to infinitely more people than ever saw us live. So way more people who have ever heard us tell a story on a podcast than have ever managed to be in a room with us and had a very hugely beautiful emotional thing. But that's the importance of actually having a platform where you can share not just her story on a website, not just on a national TV, but not just on the churches and the facades, but everywhere, and be able to have a platform that is connected to people across the globe, because fucking there's Irish people all over the gaff, and if you're not Irish, you're also probably sound, or could be, you know, there's not Irish if you're not Irish.
Do we have time to see the pictures?
Quickly, we'll apply for them.
Absolutely do. And is there anything else you want to mention on Bridget's Day before we move
Goddess and saint, absolutely, fundamentally, she was first and foremost a goddess and then a saint. Pan-European, celebrated all across Europe, wasn't always a pinky-faced white Irish person. That's really important. So she is multicultural goddess and a great unifying icon for our times when Brexit is threatening the EU. So I just think she's badass and awesome. And to think the whole world celebrates St. Patrick's Day, not even just the Irish, the whole world is Irish on St. Patrick's Day. And yet we don't even have a national holiday for our matron saint and goddess. It's a no-brainer. Fingers crossed. The Women's Caucus now, all the female politicians have got behind it in the Dáil, and they're taking it to Leo as well. So I think we've got a really strong pitch, and feck it, wouldn't it be? It's about time.
And you know what? I don't want to just like rush this into like the last bit that we ran through. I think it's really, really fucking important. I think it's also one of those things that like Bridget as a holiday. You're like, oh yeah, that sounds like an airy fairy healing thing for people over there. Fine. But also, as Laura Murphy kind of talked about in Offaly, she got people, business owners and people who had cafes and were like, yeah, it would actually be good commerce. It would be an extra.
Oh, completely.
Being like,
great
so
for business.
Great for business, great for you, great for me, great for her, great for us.
Yeah.
Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Everybody
Tourism Ireland, Fall to Ireland, diaspora, you name it. And it's like we need something positive and uplifting. Like in February, it's that like January is such a heavy month, and like you're good 2-3 months off, but you know, real spring, like the real explosion of spring. So we need that boost, and we need to reclaim the goddess.
100%.
So more lip service. Yeah.
Show us your photo. Show us your pictures, man.
I'm excited when I made this slideshow for you guys because I love them so much.
I can't wait.
I know. I will whiz through them.
I know. Take your time.
Eru lighting up Ishnok, the first year we ever did a light show. Photo by Killian Kennedy. Glacial erratics, not the easiest thing to light up.
Yeah.
Mel, I'm just going to say before we carry on, I'll tell you what, this will be the kind of end of our podcast, because if you're listening to this back, we should probably kind of like, you know, say that these will be available through some platform like YouTube. Go subscribe to the channel and watch the thing. So carry on.
If you're listening to this on a podcast, go and look at the YouTube channel and you'll see these images because they are worth looking at.
Absolutely. Go ahead there, Mel.
Taking Back the Goddess, Eru by Jim Fitzpatrick, founding goddess of Ireland. And this is Eru reimagined in the 21st century. I've always wanted to do this. Mixed race teenage girl at Menart. She just got her first period, represented by the red face paint. Wow. The Baron, representative of the moon, her moon time, and she's like owning it. Like she's like, watch me rise, watch me rise. So these were incredible photographic series that were created by Miriam Riand and Anya O'Brien. The first 3 are for a Safe Ireland collaboration that we did at the beginning of the year. Reclaiming and reimagining Irish goddesses. Eru, number 1. Sheila McGee. You don't need to say any more, do you?
That's fabulous.
Yeah. Great crack. This is Bridget. It's a really beautiful story behind this image, actually. Alexandra is a trans woman, and the Bridget is all about reclaiming and welcoming the trans community into Ireland as they should always have been. A no-brainer. And it was just the most beautiful Renaissance. It's a Renaissance image. That's what it's entitled as. Bridget the Renaissance. Yeah, just so healing. So Anya and Miriam created this image, and Susan pinged it over to me on WhatsApp one evening. I thought, oh my God, who are these women? This is the breastfeeding Madonna, which was normal church art until the 15th century, when the church burned the art of breastfeeding Madonnas when they burnt the witches at the stake.
Wow.
So yeah, we haven't had a natural Madonna since then. That is Hildy. She's a beautiful Dutch woman who lives in West Clare, and that is her baby girl. Fists pumped, ready to take on the patriarchy or domination model, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, she's ready for it.
Careful there, no.
Yeah, it's really incredible. So just taking back the mother and reclaiming it. And I mean, Hildy, she's beautiful heart energy. I met her in person, but defiant. We're back. Watch us. The adoration of the mother. This is Joanna and her son. They're beautiful, beautiful family, and you can read her stories. We've got a photo essay about all these images. The process the artist went on was absolutely extraordinary. Really deep artistic process, and they cast real women. There's no models, there's no celebrities. It's real, authentic women, and their stories. And quite a few of them actually have connection to the mother and baby homes and that whole era as well, and the industrial schools. So I highly recommend reading it. It's called Sovereignty. It's on our website. This is Mother Creation, the Black Madonna, embodied by Nadine Reid in the Liberties in Dublin.
Wow.
Isn't it stunning? Yeah, she is just, and she's huge energy. She's just a force of nature. What a character. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Trish embodying the kayak, the letting go phase. Anya hung hundreds of ribbons on that tree, on the hawthorn tree, to symbolize all the children that died at Tuam. So it's the flaming tree on fire, biblical reference. And Trish actually, herself and her 3 siblings were taken from their mother and sent to industrial school. So it's very close to the bone for Trish. And she heals through singing. There she is. Gorgeous soul. She's a traveler woman. Yeah. Traveler woman and proud. Quite the force. And this is beautiful triple goddess portrait of 3 generations of a Irish Goan family, Indian Irish family. And they live in Clare, yeah. So they've also got Scottish heritage too, and one of them is actually wearing you can see the tartan.
Yes.
The mother, yeah. So grandmother, mother, and daughter. And then we lit them these beautiful portraits up on buildings. So this is the Jealous Wall in Belvedere House and Gardens in Mullingar, close to where I'm from. It's the largest folly in Ireland. One brother was jealous of another brother, so he blocked his wife's view of the other brother's house. Yeah, jealousy.
Wow. What a beautiful thing to put on such a monument to pettiness.
I know, we started like the pilgrimage, like we started at a Jealous Wall and ended on the mother and baby home, but we lit up castles and museums en route. It was quite a fascinating process. You look back at it and go. And my mum actually did a drawing of the route, and it actually looks like a pregnant woman, the route that we did through the heart of Ireland. Yeah, it's great fun. And this is the creative team here, Anya and Miriam and Margaret to the styling. There's something else to work with, serious talent, just huge heart. We all cried when we received the proposal. It was the depth of it, the research, and they just wanted to reclaim, but to heal. And it was done in such a loving way. They transformed their anger. You know, they'd gone through that whole process, and I just thought respect, you know. I love this. This is a Blood Moon by Mish. Actually, will it play? I don't know if it'll play. So this was on the Mother and Baby Home with Sean Ross Abbey. From a Mother and Baby Home where 1,090 children, little babies of innocent souls died. And that's the iconic red door from the Philomena film. So we gave a serious blast of goddess energy. A very powerful piece that was created by Mission in response to an Irish woman's poem, Miss Brennan. And then we projected Athlone Castle with all the names of the babies from the Irish Examiner cover. The children who died of Bessborough.
Yeah, Jesus, that was quite the cover, wasn't it?
It was very powerful, yeah. God, like there wasn't a dry eye when we did this. Like it was very, very cathartic, yeah. And this is quite a leap. Ooh, this is Anya. Sorry, I didn't pick that through actually.
There she is. That's herself.
Yeah, honest to God. Yeah, so Anya by Jim Fitzpatrick, one of the first illuminations that we did. Maybe why we didn't get funding that year, I don't know. Care-breasted Anya. Bang it straight out of Dublin City Hall onto Bernarda Square. Yeah, she's a beaut, isn't she? Gorgeous.
Isn't she great? There's something about Anya I just fucking love. I just thought, right, every time I found out about her, I was like, oh, what a legend.
You guys were here for this, weren't you? When we got the really powerful projector last year. Because they keep like updating the street lights in Dublin with these super powerful like security lights, and then you turn up to a light show and it's the light pollution's a nightmare. So we flew this thing in from the UK, Panasonic 21,000 lumen projector. There's no messing with it. Like Bridget on Fire. That's Bridget by Courtney Davis. I just adore his work. I love hanging out with Courtney on the Hill of Tara. He's one of the great divine masculines, actually. He's like a god in his own right, pure heart, and so much respect for the feminine. This is Courtney's work again. Kildare Cathedral, like.
Class.
Wow, there she is at home.
Transition. That's another piece by Courtney.
Do
you know Courtney's work?
I know it from the Her Story images that you've shared with me over the years, but I wouldn't have known him outside of through you. That's extraordinary.
Yeah, that's the transition piece that we did up there. That's the piece you're saying. Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Don't look at it before you go to bed. You won't sleep. It's like they're like mandalas, I suppose. It's spiritual art. It's designed to have an effect, on you. It'll wake you up. That's for sure.
That's incredible.
Wow, that is so Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very special. And then we do open calls. So every year people can send us their Bridget art and you tell us who Bridget is for you. And you'll get your art lit up on buildings, which is awesome. And this is Bridget by Non Waters. I love her electric pink hair.
Class.
And Bridget by Dee McKiernan, local artist from Mullingar. And Ninja Bridget. Now this
Oh my God.
Rile the Ion Institute. I got some pretty sharp tweets from David Quinn. I don't think I've ever been so proud of myself.
Oh, that's fucking glorious. Look at her with the Bridget's cross as the ninja star.
I know.
And the red robes. Oh, that's class. Oh, wow.
Yeah. As a playing card. She'd have to be the ace. Like.
Oh, yeah.
That is class. That is class.
Isn't it amazing? With real pies as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Order, yeah.
And then
she goes so well on the side of a church.
I know, she really does. Yeah. And fairness, they're very progressive in Kildare. Like, it's a good, fine Protestant church, you know.
Yes.
They're very open-minded. They love Bridget. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Modern times. And this is the first time I saw Ninja Bridget. Sean created this piece for the first ever light show when you guys were in Smock. I think they came down and joined us in Smock afterwards. Sean Brannigan, Storyboard Workshop. He's such a gifted artist and filmmaker. He's a brilliant film director too. And he made this. And every time I go into school, the kids are like, when is this going to be an animation series? So I have to get funding.
Where is it? Please give it to me now. I would like it immediately.
And you know who it is on the left there, on the giant elk, Gorm, I call her Gormlay, Brian Baru's wife.
Oh.
She held the throne 3 times. She was High Queen 3 times. When he was taken out, she married a Viking. I think that's the word. Yeah. Viking. She was just
class.
The real powerhouse in that dynamic. But everybody's heard of Brian Baru, never heard of her. So I was like, that's it. Put it in there.
No, she needs to be in there.
One of those trigger moments, the early days of her story, was like Cester and Gorm Lyeth. I was like, of course, the most powerful women would have to be the most hidden. Well, we found them. And then we banged them up on buildings. And Sean's wife, Amy DeVroon, she wrote this incredible play called I See You about Lady Mary Heath, Ireland's Queen of the Skies, who was actually more famous than Amelia Hart in her day. Limerick woman who's up in the middle flying over the moon there. And Amy performed the play, and it was like Irish Times Theatre of the Week. She's just, they're such a gifted couple. They're amazing to work with. Early collaborators. And then I said, Jim Fitzpatrick, you have to do Bridget. And would you believe he'd never drawn fire before? He's 75 years of age, never drawn fire. So he had to go and study how to draw fire.
Huh.
Seriously, yeah.
Wow.
And I said to him, I said, Jim, no cloak and no cross. You're not allowed. You have to crack her out of her box. So I love this idea about her embodying the masculine and feminine, perfect harmony, the element of water and fire for the times that we live in, because we do want equality, whatever that will look like in that journey, God knows, but at least let's aim for it. So so Jim made this piece, and there's different variations of it. And I said, Jim, well, I do love the bare-breasted goddesses, but you don't always have to. And he covered her up, and I nearly missed them. He said you can't teach an old dog new tricks. One of my
he learned how to draw fire for you, Mel. That's good. Yeah. That's a good trick. I like her cloak of green though. There's something really beautiful about the it's like oak leaves or something that she's
with style
nestled down into.
Yeah.
Beautiful talk.
There she is in the GPO. This is Bridget by forgive me, I can't remember the name of the artist now. That's Sunday Fatigue. Deadly. Bridget by Louise Rowland, like a Picasso style Bridget.
Wow.
I love the sun in the eye there. That's beautiful.
Powerful, isn't it? Adam Robert Martin sent us in this piece last year. We lit it up. Stunning. I love the recent temporary vibes to it. Yeah. Shelky Bean. Bridget with her flame. Great, isn't it? Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and we light them all up. This is multicultural EU Bridget by Non Waters this year. Yeah.
Nice.
She looked great on the cathedral. And then Fritz created this mural. It's up in it's permanent stone mural up in Dundalk, I think, or Drogheda.
I like it. It has the look of a kind of a tarot card.
Again, that god, and that
saint
goddess. Yeah, duality. Beautiful.
And she is both. Yeah, that's important. we don't want to lose the saint either. We definitely want both.
No, the saint was an extraordinary figure in early Christianity and incredibly influential.
Yeah.
It's that aspect of embodying, you know, like you can embody a goddess and be a saint in whatever time frame. You can embody something and bring it forward and into the modern, you know. Sorry, who's this?
Yeah. This is Markovich. So
brilliant.
2018. Yeah, Markovich. And we thought we'd light up all the buildings where the women smashed the windows 100 years ago. Or civilized, just a bit of light. And we made the third item on the RT 6 o'clock news. We weren't the quirky thing at the end of the news. We were actually one of the main headline stories. I'll never forget it because no pressure on me now, but I got an email from the director of the National Women's Council of Ireland, Orla O'Connor. She said, Mel, pressure's on you now. You're first out the gates. This is the big year. This is the year we're going for repeal the eighth, like. Do us proud. And we went straight after the GPO. And she was like, you did us proud. We're on fire. The feminists are out. We're blazing, like, power to us. Like, yeah, but there was a bit of heat on that. It was a big year. You could feel the tension building, and we had to do them justice. So don't mess with Markovich.
No, fucking what a powerhouse.
Yeah, and also, like, I love that her sister was a pacifist who radicalized her. They had this amazing dynamic, the two of them. And she was a really gifted horticulturalist. She loved flowers. This is not going about her. She had a real soft side to her too. And a very keen landscape artist, I'll have you know, but also loved crystals.
Well, we knew that, but we didn't know about the horticulture.
She's not wrong.
Oh yeah, there's so much to Markovich. Like, she was just, you know what I loved about her as well, because she went to art college, so she was very clever about how she constructed her image. She didn't want to ditch her femininity either, so she would wear these elaborate feather hats with her full military garb.
Yes, she was very stylized always, wasn't she? She had a seriously conscious look. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Like, for her an era, like, to see a woman in military garb, like, and then to wear a feather hat with it, like, what a badass.
Yeah, that was super on purpose.
And it made just on Constance, there was a brilliant Creating Constance put out there by the Hawkswell Theatre online. And it was just, again, talking about like a collaboration of brilliant musicians, male and female, and readings of her letters and stuff. And just like, it was fantastic. What an absolute legend to look back at her time and what she had done, and then kind of put into the modern perspective. We're like, right, yeah, okay, we still have all that work to do. Not all of it, but still a lot of it.
People in our comments really, really like Ninja Bridget. Just
I know, she's a big one.
Right,
I don't like her.
Yeah. We better wrap up. It's half 8.
Okay, we're rolling. Boann, Eru. Oh, this is a shoot we did on the beach one time, messing. This is like projections on caves and cliffs in the wild wests of Ireland, as you do for the crack. And my dad's just like, bit witchy, man, bit witchy. And mother and child.
Oh,
Galway. That's quite a trippy image. Shouldn't have worked, but it does.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. The light in the sky behind it.
Yeah. Ta-da!
Fabulous.
Class. But look,
thank you so much, Mel, for sharing that.
Thank you guys for all your epic collaborations over the years, and looking forward to many more. And Bridget's Box, and God knows what else we've got up our sleeves. We put our heads together in these bizarre times. Apparently, according to Niamh, somebody, there's loads of Arts Council giving away grants, and there's fucking loads of them, so apply away. And that's about as enjoyable as wanting to say the leg. But anyway,
we'll apply for a few Arts Council grants. We will need. Yeah, support us on Patreon. Also, and then we can pay Aron to fill in grant applications.
So many typos, lads. There'll be so many typos.
And then pay me to proofread them very, very carefully and take on all the time on.
All right, okay, look, we'll just stop there, everybody do the things. Mel, thank you very much for fucking joining us. You're an absolute legend. Keep lighting the fire, keep it lighting it up,
Likewise.
keep it lighting up the inspiration. And
you guys, legends.
Big hug from afar.
Deadly.
Honor to know you, absolute honor to know you. Thanks for all that you do to keep mythology alive and the rise of the goddess, and
and the divine masculine. We'll get and the divine masculine with the feminine. We'll support both equally and keep them fucking.
We rise together.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Fabulous to talk to you, and lovely to see you. And we will talk to you again soon. And thank you everybody who chipped in the chats. It was really nice to see your comments. Until next time.
All right, lads. Cheers, Slán. Agus Gabra Mila. You.